2017. And the time is, looks like it's almost 7:04. So can we call the roll, please?
Shaquille Ali,
Here.
Clayton Koo,
Here.
Rebecca Douglas.
Here.
Marie Brizuela.
Here. And so let's go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And we do have with us George Washington School, and we'd like to have you lead us in the pledge. Okay. Come forward. Can anybody, I'm sorry, my mic was off. Maybe you didn't hear me. Welcome. Okay. Our students?
Please stand, face the flag, put your right hand over your heart, and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. That was great. So we're going to move on to the next item, which is George Washington Element. Oops, wait, excuse me. No. Excuse me, that's already done. Item 4, review board meeting guidelines. And we talked about it last time a little bit, so. Did you pick one? So what we do now, for those that haven't been at our meeting before, is we adopted these guidelines of how we interact at a meeting and everything. And so we choose one at the beginning of each meeting so that we can reflect on it at the end of the meeting. So at the end of the meeting, that's when we will talk about this. It's on here now as a reminder to us, but we'll see at the end of the meeting how well we did. We're doing really good, by the way, so we're being good people. So you guys have a chance to pick that out, and we'll go back to it at the end of the agenda. So let's have the approval of our agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we're going to have a public hearing for 2017-2018 AFT Local 3267 contract proposal. So the time of the public hearing is
06.
7:06. And it's this one's public comment. Okay. Is it Janet Hanson?
For the public hearing, Pamela wanted to speak on that.
Oh, she didn't put that down here.
She didn't.
Yeah, hi, sorry. Thank
Could
you.
be next. This one now? Okay.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
had to do it at the beginning because I have to get up so early tomorrow. So, and I wanted to I'm a member of AFT 3267, proud member, 29 years, and I thank Melinda for being here week after week because most of us are tired and busy and don't make it. She speaks for all of us. So thank you to Melinda, to Paul before her, and Adrian Zanini before her. And I just wanted to mention how hard it is to pay rent. And also to thank you for a year and 8 months ago for acknowledging my husband when he died. And there are some photos I could pass around if you want to see them. It was really quite a nice gesture that you acknowledged his death and sent that card. A check for $12,000, however, would have paid 3 months' rent. So next time I'll take a check. Anyway, thank you, and I want to make sure that you remember that teachers are having a hard time living here, beginning teachers especially. So continue to bargain with our salary and health care in need. And thank you. And you can just pass that back to me when you've had a chance to look. And thank you, administration and board, for acknowledging him. That was thoughtful.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it's a little confusing, but Pamela, did you want to speak on this item? I've got one. This is for two things?
No, Yeah, one's for about Samtrans at the public comment period.
Okay.
And this one's about teachers.
Okay. So you want to talk now about the teachers?
Yeah, this is the public hearing, correct, on A?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Good evening, honorable trustees. I just would like to bring to attention, I'm a community member, and I'm sure we're aware of Measure T, and then after I heard at the last meeting, I would like to make sure that the monies that were in Measure T to retain our teachers is given to them, and I guess, and make sure that they have the salaries we need with the increase in rent and to retain them, because we don't have the affordable housing yet, and it's not going to be here immediately. But I would like to make sure that those Measure T dollars go to the teachers appropriately so they can continue the top education level and continue our district and serve the wonderful families and communities, because it actually makes a big difference in our children. Their children is everybody's children when they go out into the public to serve us and have future of education. And some of them, as Clayton Koo and our Vice Mayor Jocelyn Manalo, who are products of our public school, can go on to serve in public office and become elected officials. So you never know in this room. So we need to continue our teachers, give them what they deserve and what they need. And in my era, it was always to revere the teacher. And I know that's a heavy word, but it reflects today in monies and in dollars. So I appreciate that, and I know you'll take it into consideration. Thank you very much.
So I do have another speaker card. Let's see if I get this one. So Pamela, you have one here for public comment. You want that again?
That's for Samtrans, about Samtrans.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
I got three from you. I'm confused. It's all the same person. Okay. So now I'd like to call on Melinda Dart, President AFT. And I noticed that a couple of you are saying A and B. So you speak at once?
Hi, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. I actually put that in to speak at the end, but I can do it now.
Okay.
Basically, I'd like to echo, the idea that it is a very expensive area that we're in. We know that, the district has many priorities. We have them also. However, in order to keep our teachers here and to attract the best new teachers, which we must do, as a lot of teachers are leaving this year, retiring, and also we have a lot of movement. So in order to stay competitive, we do need the district to figure out ways to address not just salary, but health insurance. And I'm happy to hear that those negotiations are going on, and I wish everyone luck in pursuing that, and look forward to hearing a great settlement that can help keep people here. Thank you.
Okay. So I think I've covered everybody that put a speaker card. So if there's nobody else that has a card in to speak, then we'll close the public hearing at 7:12. Now we'll open under B, another public hearing for the Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to AFT Local 3267. And now it'll be, if I stretch it long enough, it'll be 2:13. 7:13, excuse me. So, opening the second public hearing, are there any comments? You covered both of them, right, Melinda? Yeah. Okay. So, did I cover, Pamela, both of them? Okay. All right. There's no other speaker cards, and we'll move on. It's 7:13 and a half. And we'll close that public hearing as well. And this is something we have to do all the time with the negotiations, so we're following the law, how we do this. And we are, like Melinda said, there is negotiations going on, and we're hoping for the best that we can do. Okay. So let's move on to item number 7, special presentations. A, the Multicultural Night Celebration at George Washington Elementary School. And Ms. Christina Sanchez, are you speaking? Our principal. Okay. Yeah.
Good evening, board members and district office administrators. My name is Rochelle Pimentel-Ewan, and I'm the proud principal of George Washington Elementary School. Here with me tonight are 3 amazing teachers from our fantastic staff who will be presenting on our 2nd annual Multicultural Night. Before we begin, I just wanted to make it known that these 3 teachers were the 3 teachers who started this event last year, and so they've continued to provide this wonderful opportunity to share some of those experiences with the entire George Washington community. So if Ms. Christina Sanchez can come up, Ms. Marian Piance, and Ms. Sandra Seitz, and they can introduce the students who will be helping them make the presentation.
Hi, I'm Christina Sanchez, 3rd grade teacher at George Washington Elementary School.
Good evening, I'm Marian Piancai, 2nd grade teacher at George Washington Elementary School.
Good evening, I'm Sandra Seitz, 3rd grade teacher at George Washington Elementary. We are going to have some 5th grade students present the Multicultural Night presentation. Would you like to come up? All of you can together.
We don't bite, it's okay.
Welcome, students. We're
Let's put this up. So right here's the microphone, so if you want to introduce yourself, just say your name.
My name is Janine Cosino.
My name is Marcel Cosino.
My name is Kevin Angeles.
My name is Justin Gomez.
My name is Calvin Eng.
My name is Liana Maivet.
My name is Athena Ramoran.
Just click it. The left one.
Our Multicultural Night and Talent Show took place on Friday, May 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. in our MUR. This is our 2nd year of having this event, and we want to continue to make it a yearly tradition.
We set up the tables with country nameplate holders, and we decorated tables with poster boards representing the various countries that represent our student body.
The staff prepared dishes, and student families donated food dishes that represented their culture of origin. Countries that were represented included the Philippines, Mexico, Korea, El Salvador, Russia, Italy, Ireland, Brazil, China, and Japan.
Last year and this year, we approached local businesses that were in the neighborhood surrounding our school, and some of them were gracious enough to be part of our event. Last year, Mission Edge Cafe donated 3 trays of food to our event: chicken, salad, and potatoes.
This year, we partnered with local businesses Frost Tea by selling boba drinks, a favorite of our students and school community, where a portion of profits were donated to our school. We are fortunate to be able to build partnerships with our community businesses for the benefit of our school. Another major part of our event is our talent show. Students had the opportunity to showcase their wonderful talents in front of the entire school and school community. This year, we had students that sang, danced, performed on the piano, ukulele, and violin, and even had a magic card trick. We're going to play a short slideshow. This probably might make you want to go to our next multicultural night.
I think so.
Show all this food, yes.
Volume, audio.
Yes.
goodbye. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, and the dreams that you dare to, oh why can't I? Well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes. So any of you can answer this. First of all, you did a great job, and I'm happy to see you all here tonight. But my question is, what did you learn by participating in this event? What did you learn about yourself?
Well,
I see
or
you.
somebody's coming up.
Want an easier question?
Anybody learn anything
How about
about
what was the
another
funnest
country?
part of it?
Probably the talent show.
Talent show.
Probably the talent show was the best part of it, and the food.
And the food,
All
of
right.
course.
Great.
Thanks for the presentation. I wish I had gone. It looked really delicious. But I will try to get it next year. So thanks again.
I was looking at that, being really glad I already had dinner. Otherwise, I'd have to just go out and get some. That looks great, and thank you for coming and for your presentation.
Well, also, I want to thank you for, first of all, participating in the program today. You guys are really good coming tonight to show us. Food is delicious. I definitely will make it next year for sure. But I just wanted to ask you, did you learn from participating in this program about the foods or the customs of other nationalities?
We had the poster board. We went to, or the arts and crafts.
Maybe these questions are too hard. Well, I look at this and I'm hoping that the message that went out with all of this effort was that you learn to appreciate the different countries and their food, their talent, everything together. So the more that we get to know about other countries and how they celebrate, the more that we want to celebrate with them, right? I know we want to celebrate now that we saw this. So I just want to thank you for all that you're doing. And it's hard for you guys to stand up here and answer questions when you don't know what we're going to be asking you. But I just saw you all smile as you came out. And that means you're happy and you're proud of what you're doing. And the teachers are totally happy with what they're doing. So next year, tell us early when you have that date set so we can mark it on a calendar and we can be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it'll be like, wow, we'll like it a lot. So thank you. Thanks to the families.
Can I say something else?
Oh, yeah. One thing. Well, one thing I wanted to say is thank you to the parents, because I bet you most of you prepared the food. So thanks to the parents for working with your students and working all together, and especially for the teachers, because it takes a lot of time to put something like this together. So thank you for doing it, and I think you heard from most of us, all of us sitting here, that we would love to go and see what it's like, and join with you in being happy about what you're doing, because this is great. And each year, it gets bigger and better, right, guys? Okay. And I might bring something next time, so you tell me early.
Oh, wow.
Okay? All right, so I think, Shaquille, you want
Oh, I
to
just
say
wanted
something?
to also say that I like how you involved the community and got those businesses involved to donate. That was a good idea. And also, this was a good way to bring awareness to how many different countries are represented in our school and in our district. So I saw it was at least 10 countries that you have represented, so that was really great.
And if you do it again, I think you will probably qualify to go for a Kent Award, which is something that's done through the county, and this is something I think they would embrace. So don't, keep doing it next year again, okay? So thanks for coming tonight, and we do have certificates to say thank you for leading the Pledge of Allegiance as well as talking about your program. And did I cut anybody off? Did you want to say anything else? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, don't go away. Okay, so let me give, there's 2 for you. 2 for you, and I get 1.
Sure.
Okay, yes.
All right, certificate of appreciation for Rihanna, my dad. And appreciation to Janine K. Cosino.
I have a certificate for Coleman Inc. For Justin Christopher Gomez.
Kevin Angeles. And for Athena Ramona.
This should be probably the last one standing, right? Marcel Louise, did I say it right?
All right. Thank you again.
Okay. So we'll go to our next, get all these papers out of here. Our next item is the Fernando Rivera Intermediate School Trip to Washington, D.C. If you guys all want to stay a while and listen to it, you might be able to go.
Better.
Now, I was going to do that, no.
It was, huh?
Gosh, she grew.
I'm not sure. It's fine. Good evening. My name is Dina Conti. I'm the proud principal at Fernando Rivera. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm going to introduce Lindsay Bazzella, who was our courageous and fearless teacher who accompanied our 8th grade students to Washington, D.C. in April. And they're going to share their experiences with you tonight and some thoughts. So, Ms. Bazzella.
Do you guys want to come up behind me now? Tawana? I don't think I need it. I think we're all good. Do any of you need this? I'm going to put it to the side.
These are taller, older.
So, hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay Bazzella, U.S. history teacher at Fernando Rivera. I'm excited to be here. This was our inaugural trip for our school, and it went really well. We had a really wonderful time. These guys came up with three different points that really impacted them academically and as people, and they wanted to share these with you. So I'm gonna hand it over to them, and then I'll speak at the end for a moment. They are, oh, here we go. They are, do I just left click? There they are.
Oh, look at them. Oh.
This is, yeah, I love this picture. So the first one is interacting with the curriculum. Getting a chance to spend 8th grade is so special in the sense that they learn, it's their civics year. It's crucial.
and to be able to make an impact or feel connected, connected to the country, see what they learned was a really big deal. So they're going to talk to you about that. Aaliyah and Jessica are. Meeting kids from around the country, sharing a bus for 5 days with kids from completely different backgrounds. So we'll have Ong and Isaac speak to that. And then the last point, gaining independence going into high school, being that they're about to be high schoolers. And Annika and Ariana are going to speak to that. And then I will. Do you want this here? Are you good? Yes, here it is. Come on.
I'm Aaliyah, and I just want to say that it was really cool to actually see what we learned about at school in person. And for example, we went to Congress and to the White House, and we actually got to see the president drop in while we were walking, like, at the mall or something.
Good evening, I'm Jessica, and I would like to say that while we went to our trip to DC, we got a better understanding in class about our country's history and our world's history, because, for example, a few weeks after we went at school, we learned about the Holocaust. And at the Holocaust, we saw audio recordings, footage, and the belongings of those, and we kind of connected to that.
So our two people coming up, our two boys who are going to speak to meeting kids around the country from different locations. We were placed with two different groups, a group from Chicago and a group from rural Minnesota, which was really very cool. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ong, and I'm Ong. So we met like students from other different states, Minnesota and Chicago. So they're like from different they're from dairy farmers, and like they introduced us to their cows. Yeah. And they also learn our lifestyle, and we also learn their lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Isaac, and during the trip I didn't really feel well for one day, and it was really nice to have them to have my back and support me when I wasn't really feeling that well.
Great.
And then lastly, we have, speaking to gaining independence, being that they are going to be high schoolers in a couple of weeks, would be Annika and Ariane.
My name is Annika, and during this trip, we really had to be responsible. We had certain responsibilities, like looking out for each other, and we also had a buddy system, just in case.
Hi, my name is Ariane, and this trip taught me many things, but I think the biggest thing it taught me was how to be independent. For example, I learned how to manage my money so that I didn't spend it all in a day, and I also learned how to properly pack a bag without needing my mom's help. And we learned how to discipline ourselves, which meant that we had to put our phones down so that we get a full night of sleep, and we learned how to make sure that nothing was left behind. And I think this trip definitely helped all of us prepare for the independence that we will soon have to face.
I have a couple pictures left. I'm going to just go through these. We found the California one right away, as you can see. There's Lincoln Memorial. I think that's the last one. So the last thing I want to say was that this trip was, as an educator and seeing students connect with their country was so impressive, and to be really honest, pretty emotional. Because I spent the entire year learning about their country, but I think living on the West Coast, there's you sometimes feel a little bit removed in a sense, but making that personal connection with where laws are made was huge. And I could feel it, I could see it, and I can see maturity now that they're back at home. I see some maturity as well. And I want to say as well that making a connection with kids from completely different backgrounds was beautiful to watch. We're definitely a country divided right now. There's a lot of division at the moment. And we were with boys who are rural dairy farmers who are excited to share their lives and genuinely interested in our kids and looking out for them. So it was a beautiful experience. And thank you for letting us speak with you tonight. I don't know if you have any questions for them or what. But.
So do we have any questions? We'll start this way.
I don't really have any questions. I want to thank you for coming. I think this is a great program, and I'm glad that somebody at Fernando, and I imagine who took the effort to bring that and get this started. The trip to Washington, D.C. is actually one that I personally have never been able to make, and so I'm looking at this going, this is really good, this is important. So I'm glad you did it.
Thank you to all of you for the presentation, and thanks for taking the effort to lead this group. Washington, D.C. is actually, I think I mentioned it in the past, it's my favorite city pretty much in the country. So I love seeing all those photos. And I actually was wondering, so you guys went to Congress. Did you guys actually sit in House of Representatives or Senate, or did you guys see it in action?
We tried. We had an appointment.
We took a tour.
Yeah. Our representative, Jackie Spear, only had one person there that day and wasn't able to give us a tour. So what I learned is that next time I'm going to speak out to multiple representatives, mine and theirs, to make sure that we get a tour of the chambers. But you guys did see a lot of Congress, right?
I would just say that the chambers is pretty cool. You see it on TV, but being there in person is actually a lot more interesting and unique than it actually appears on TV. So totally worth going.
I just wanted to know, out of all the sites and monuments that you visited, which one stood out the most to you and why?
Which monuments or site? Anything that stood out to you kind of?
I really liked that we went to George Washington's house because, like, even though he's not our president, he's like the one like started it all, and like to actually be in his house and like stand where he stood is cool. And also like standing where Martin Luther King gave his "I have a dream" speech is really cool too.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I personally liked the Lincoln Memorial because when we went, it was sunset, so all the pictures we took were really nice, and it was great.
All right. Cool.
Any other? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you guys for coming tonight and sharing with us, and I hope it will be traditional that every year somebody will be going. If you need a chaperone, call me. No, I have never yet been able to go there, but I think I better go one day because I think it is something that we all can be proud of, and you do get history from going there. You're going to learn more about history instead of just reading in a book. You see what it really is. And I know whenever I do travel different places, different states, I try to always go to see the government. You know, whether it's the state capitol or whether it's, a city with a city hall or something, because I just want to see what it's like in other areas. And sometimes it's big and sometimes it's small. It just depends on the area. But you had a great opportunity, and I hope that you keep those memories forever. And maybe one day you'll be able to go back and actually be able to sit inside the chambers. They usually make you sit way up high because nobody can be on the floor because they're doing business, but at least you can kind of look down and see everything. But that'll come another time. At least you got to do something that a lot of children do not have an opportunity to go. So thank your teachers for putting it all together. Okay?
Thank you.
So, wait. Come back. Students, you're not done yet. Come back.
Your little certificates.
What we want to do, we have certificates for you guys, and it just says it's a certificate of appreciation for participating in the special presentation, Fernando Rivera Intermediate School Trip to Washington, D.C. And each of you are going to get one, so don't leave yet. Okay, so how many do we have? We have
6, I hope.
You can start it off. And I think I just got to give you guys, okay. Should look at the names first. Oh, okay. Good luck. Okay.
Isaac Dylan Barino.
You have one or two? You have one or two. Okay, so you go that way.
And on a
I have one for Jessica Tam. And Roxanne, is this your first year teaching?
No, it's Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was wonderful. I think the first trip went really well. I hear they grow. That's what I hear. I hear they continue to grow. And we already have a lot of families who are super excited about next year and have lots of ideas. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But this was just, it's hard to put words to have kids, seeing kids connect to their capital. But it was a great trip. Thank you for hearing us.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thanks.
So under communications, board member acknowledgements and accommodations. Do you want to start left or right? Doesn't matter.
I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, all of the board members attended the Kent Award, so I won't go into detail about that, but congratulations to Fernando Rivera School for winning a Kent Award for leadership. And I just want to announce that we will have a conversation about restorative justice and equity, a community perspective, and that'll be Tuesday, May 30th at Thomas R. Policita Middle School Library. And I'll be one of the speakers. There's also a national speaker from Maryland, Dr. Loretta Johnson. Ray Buenaventura, one of our city council members, will be there. Iridian Martinez, a student activist. Alfredo Olguin, who's also a student activist, and David Vogelstein. So we want as many of you to come out, and I commend AFT, the teachers union from the high school district and our district that are putting this together. Also, just want to acknowledge that I attended a meeting at San Francisco State University. I'm on the Dean's Advisory Committee in the Graduate College of Education, and we were updated on all the initiatives that they have at San Francisco State right now to attract and retain and produce more teachers to come into our classrooms. So I think a lot of people will be excited to find out all the ways that people will be able to get into the classroom and help with the teacher shortage. Also, we have Friday, July 28th is the California Teachers Summit. This is the third annual statewide day of learning by teachers for teachers. It's at San Francisco State University as well, July 28th, 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. And then also there's a teachers workshop from an organization called China Now. That will be Wednesday and Thursday, July 26th and 27th at the San Mateo County Office of Education. And there are teacher stipends to attend this. And the purpose is to, the primary goal of these workshops is to inspire, encourage, and enable middle and high school teachers to include modern China in their curriculum. And they really feel like right now this kind of work is more important than ever because of some of the statements that have been made by our president right now. So I would like to commend all these organizations that are putting together these kind of educational seminars for all of our benefit, and that's it.
Okay.
I want to commend a couple of the school events I've attended over the past couple weeks. One of them was the joint elementary middle school concert at FDR. They did a great job. It went on for an hour and a half. It was quite a long concert, but they all did a great job. And then I also went to the PEC meeting last week, led by Ms. Kessler, and she did a great job. I'm sorry, Ms. McCulloch, sorry. And then she gave a great presentation on the LCAP process, and that's going to come up later tonight as well. And I also went to the Fernando Rivera Middle School open house. All the classrooms were open, saw teachers, and they did a great job as well. Went to the Kent Awards, as Mr. Ali said, and I just want to commend and congratulate Fernando Rivera's leadership and community outreach program on the award. And then last night I was with Miss Brizuela at TRP's spring showcase, dance showcase, and they actually did a great job. I was so impressed how good they were, and I thought at a certain point I thought they were like a high school, college dance team. So just want to commend them on that as well too.
I will echo the commendations to Fernando Rivera for the Kent Award on their program, and just offer some thanks to the Marjorie Tobias community for the really beautiful memorial event they held for Barbara Zwanek there Monday night or Monday afternoon. That was really nicely done and very well attended, and it was gratifying to see people showing our real love and loss that we had with Barbara, and how much we feel like we owe what she did for our community.
Okay, so sounds like we're all saying the same thing pretty much. We did go to the Kent Awards, which was very nice for Fernando Rivera. We got to meet some of the students that were leaders of their program, and then I went to see the rehearsal for Policita School dance program, 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, I was there. So, and it had not only it wasn't the whole dance show. It was a lot of the dancers, but also the band played music, and they were wonderful. So I got this little seat they gave me, because all the kids were in the audience, right? So I sat right there, and I had the view of the band. It was great, and then got to see the dancers as well. And they were so happy. When you see some of those children playing instruments up close, they are smiling in between everything they're doing, because they're really happy playing that music. And of course, the dancers are having a great time as well. So that wasn't enough for me, so I went to the show last night, the real whole dance program, and it always is good. Every year it's good, and somehow it gets better. You don't think it can get better, but it does. So we're very proud of what they did there. And I know there's a few other things that I attended, but I left my little calendar book home, so I know there was something else I went to. But whenever we're invited, we try our best to, one of us or all of us, or how many can go, try to support the schools. So remember, if you're having a program, to let us know. Unfortunately, we got a late notice, and it's tonight, so we can't go, and I can't even go to the rehearsal, but it's for the opera at Thomas Edison, and every year it's outstanding. So I know tonight they're having a great time, but we're here, so business comes first sometimes. So, and I wanted to do a little shout out also for Melinda Dart and the union for getting so involved in all the programs that are so important to our children, to the schools, for the teachers, for everything. It's really important that we become a community rather than just us as school board, schools over here, some groups over here, that together we all look at the issues and what we can do to make our district better. And I think we're more aware of anything, because when we go to the conference, we're being told about the teachers not being able to afford to live here. And it's very sad. Sometimes we'll hire a new teacher, and before they can stay with us too long, they have to go someplace further away where they can afford to live. It's something that I don't know if we're ever going to find a solution, but I think we have something we're working on. So I'm hoping it'll be something that we can try to bring to our district. So other than that, we're going to move on. We're not going to ask any questions, no? So let's go on. I turned the page when I went to write this down. So, okay, so now we're on correspondence and the superintendent's comments.
Yes, I have one piece of correspondence and one comment. On March 8th, the board approved our second interim report, and several weeks after that, the county reviews our submission and makes comments on it. And I thought it's appropriate for me just to read some highlights, especially as we're getting ready to adopt our next budget. So first off, it says that on the basis of their review and analysis, the second interim financial report adopted by the board on March 8th appears to reflect adequately the financial and budgetary status of the district and is consistent with the state's criteria and standards. The district has submitted a positive certification, which means the district has certified it will meet its financial obligations for the current year and the subsequent 2 years. Other comments. This district's second interim cash flow projections indicate positive cash balances for all of the months for fiscal years 16-17 and 17-18. The district is commended for prudently maintaining adequate monthly cash balances to meet its financial obligations without outside or interfund borrowings. The district is encouraged to continue to implement best practices and closely monitor its spending to make sure cash balances to the general fund and all other funds are available to pay the monthly payroll and other obligations. Sounds obvious, but not many districts can do that, so commendations to us. The county superintendent is concerned about the projected operating deficit in the unrestricted general fund for the current and the subsequent 2 fiscal years, despite the inclusion of spending reductions in the 18-19 year. The county superintendent recommends the district review carefully the assumptions used in the multi-year projections and identify measures to address deficit spending and declining fund balance in the general fund. And finally, any adjustments in the LCFF funding are not anticipated to keep pace with increases in operational costs and exponential hikes in employer retirement contributions. School districts should strive to maintain fiscal solvency and protect the integrity of educational programs. It's important to be proactive and plan for tough times. School districts must use available resources wisely to ensure fiscal stability and solvency. Maintaining healthy reserves for economic uncertainties provides added protection and flexibility in the event of economic downturn. So that's from our county office, and of course, they're the ones who approve our annual budget and also approve our interim reports. So as of now, we're good, but there are cloudy days ahead. Hopefully, there's some sun through those clouds. Comment. So I just want to take this moment right now to commend and acknowledge Ms. Dart. She is attending her last school board meeting as an official president of AFT 3267. And so I think that speaks for itself. She is greatly appreciated by many in this district, so we will miss her, and we know she's going to watch us on YouTube because she can't stay away. You can watch us on YouTube 2 days later, yeah.
Nice try.
Okay. All right. So now we go to administrators. Who's going to start
this new configuration?
I know, I'm not used to that.
I can talk out of the side of my mouth.
Lose their seats, by the way, those that don't know.
Well, a couple things. I also went to the dedication of the bench over at Tobias the other day for Barbara Zwanek, and it was just great to see everybody. I want to thank the staff and Kathy. It was really nice. And the community there, it was just really, it was really sweet. It's bittersweet. So it was great to be there and be invited. And also the TRP dance performance. This was actually the last group of 8th graders, the last group of students there that I was involved with as their principal. So it was good to, I'm still getting a little bit of the love there. It's going to start going downhill pretty soon. I know that. People just look at me and think I'm a policeman or something else. And also the trips to D.C. That started when I was over at Paul Cedar with Mr. File, who's actually retiring this year. And, you know, it's so great to see that it's over now at Fernando. And Lindsay also, I hired her at Paul Cedar, so my little recruitment is still going well. I was glad to see that she took the bull by the horns and is doing this trip. So that's great to see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, the multicultural fair that they had, and that I saw some people bobbing to the music there, and also the DC trip and these students that are moving on to high school. I wish them well. I'm sure they'll do excellently. And also, I went to the Student of the Year award, and that's always. I knew you were gonna. Yes, and many of us were there. And it's always nice to see these students who perform so well. And we always bring back these students to talk, and they're amazing. They're really, they speak about their experiences, and it's wonderful to feel that they came from our district.
What a great way to end the year with the presentation, celebrating all of the exciting things that have happened. And tomorrow night is open house for the elementary schools, so we get to see and celebrate the work that the students have done this year. And last day of school is June 9th, so we're really wrapping it up. I'll have more information in a minute with the LCAP, though.
Yeah. Okay, so we heard from everybody here now. Okay. Yeah, we did forget that. Student of the Year is one of our favorite things.
Yeah.
And we all forgot.
There's just so much at this time of year. It's hard to
Like
keep
I said, I
track.
left the little calendar home, so it's like, okay. So, let's see, I do have some more comments. Now we have comments from from the public, right?
Yeah, first and
So, Pamela, you have two here. You want to do it?
No, just one.
Okay,
The other one was already the public hearing.
okay.
This is the one about the transportation and school.
Yeah, the transportation is on here, but it does say public comment,
Yes.
so.
Thank
You're
you, honorable trustees. My name is Pamela DiGiovanni. It came to my attention that Samtrans is looking to cut Route 11. The reason I bring this to your attention, it affects Fernando Rivera and Thomas Edison schools. And sadly, I just found out that their community public hearing was held at Fernando Rivera last night at 6 p.m. They did not come to city council to announce it. I was really just concerned that they had it I was happy to hear they had it at Fernando Rivera, but it was not advertised. And it's been my understanding that a lot of people, the teachers and a lot of others, maybe families, didn't know about it, so they could chime in. They can still go to the website of Samtrans and make public comment. And there is a Citizens Advisory Committee meeting next Wednesday, if anybody would like to write a letter to the board or anything else. But it is disconcerting, because even if it's lower ridership, it stops right at our schools. And for some people that maybe single moms or whatever, this may be the only way they have one child. To me is important. So so I was a little upset about it. Been in touch tonight with our supervisor, Canepa. But he also needs the support of others, like the administrators and the teachers and maybe the board, to chime in on this before he can address it as well. And so that's a little disconcerting that we didn't get much notice. So if you would like to look into that, I really would appreciate it. And like I said, it affects one child, one family, from not being able to get to school and receive their education, attend their duties, or even maybe a teacher's taking it. I don't know, but please check into that. So that's Samtrans, and they would cut this route on August the 6th. So there's
During
other
summer
routes
when no one's
that they're
gonna
going to cut.
notice
But the one that concerns me is Route 11 in Daly City, Fernando Rivera, and Thomas Edison. Thank you very much.
So, I do have two papers with the same thing. You're done, right? Okay. All right, moving on. Now so we already had, Melinda, you,
Yeah, I got it.
yes. Come on up.
I'm Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. Thank you so much, Mr. Vidalis, for thanking me, and thank you everyone for the standing ovation. It's really touching. And I want to congratulate the students who are already gone, though, for their presentations. And I want to tell everyone that Mr. Vidalis and I attended a school board, California school board
Association conference on the teacher shortage. And we were asked to present there on labor management partnerships. So even though we're kind of at a fledgling stage in our district, already other districts look to us to show them the way. So they were dealing with this topic as a way to help keep teachers in districts, because data does show that when teachers feel that they're in a collaborative atmosphere, and when they feel respected, and when they feel like instructional leaders, they are less likely to leave after a few years. So I did bring back some of the handouts that they had there, and you guys can have those. And I'm happy to know that our district has begun to embark on labor management partnerships and more voice in meetings about decision making, and in fact that we're going to have one more meeting before the school year ends that involve talking with union leaders and coordinators. So that's a good thing. I want to echo what Mr. Ali said about our upcoming event at TRP next Tuesday, May 30th, on restorative justice and why it's important in our schools and our community. This event is dedicated to our former board member, Joseph Waters, and we will have many speakers. Mr. Ali is one of them, and Dr. Loretta Johnson, and there'll be some participation from the audience at this event. So we hope that everybody here can get people there. We need people to be there from 6 to 8 at TRP on May 30th, and I'll pass these around. Thank you. Can we go
I think we did get it. Thank you, Melinda. Melinda, even though you won't be here, maybe we can invite you back occasionally. That wasn't really enthusiastic.
Somehow I think.
No, I am going to go to a conference, believe it or not, after I retire, on labor management partnerships in Southern California to possibly be some sort of trainer in that area. So you can invite me back for that.
Okay. Write that down, Bernie. No.
Make a note.
We want to have her come back. Okay. So let's move on. So general functions, our consent agenda.
Make a motion that we can approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And there's no start, I mean, there's no, okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Obviously, no opposing it. B, update on the state May revision budget information. It's always sad. Oh, no. Paint the picture. Okay, here we go. Okay, all right.
Good evening. So what I'm presenting to you tonight is an update on the May revise the governor puts out in May, updating his January proposal for the 17-18 budget, and also a small update with the federal and the state economic situations, and where how it affects the district, and how we move forward from here with the budget for the district budget for 17-18. So I have no pointer, I guess. That's okay. So basically, the U.S. dollar is strong, but exports still exceed imports, so that puts us in a negative position from that. And then the President Trump's tax plan is, there's a lot of uncertainty right now with the federal government, and I think we're all familiar with that. And the tax plan that's coming out at this point is reducing the maximum tax for businesses from 40 to 15%, and that's an enormous decrease, as well as collapsing individual taxes from 7 different tax brackets to 3 different tax brackets, as you can see up there, and eliminating some deductions, increasing other deductions, But importantly here is the alternative minimum tax and the death tax. The repeal of those two, those are usually affect the wealthier people who would be paying less taxes as well. So there's a whole lot of tax cuts in the president's proposal, but of course it's just a proposal right now. Additionally, there's the repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act and how that might affect us directly as a Medicaid reimbursements, and also what would directly affect us is a cut to education of $9 billion, about 13% of the federal budget, which some of the items that are included in that that I think are kind of bigger items is there is an increase to Title I, but of course if we've got a $9 billion decrease, then there's going to be greater decreases elsewhere, and elimination of Title II, and of course support for school choice vouchers. And so doing that will also definitely affect all public schools in the United States. State economy. Okay. So Governor Brown continues to warn us about a recession coming around the corner. We have surpassed the longest recovery of a recession by 3 years now, and so we're due for a new recession. And with that would come the slowing of an economy again, and you know we're already kind of feeling that a bit here. Democrats are running the state, which helps us. But the state revenues since January, since the governor's general proposal, have increased, and but I do want to say most of those increases are like capital gains increases, and we have a very heavy reliance on the top 1% of taxpayers in California. They pay more than half of the personal income tax, California. So, and they pay all of Prop 55, and they pay most of the capital gains taxes. So there's a lot on them, and we want them to stay here and keep them happy. And you know, another reason why the revenues are higher and capital gains is because the stock market is up. But as we know, that fluctuates, goes up and down. And so if it's up, it's bound to come down eventually. Unemployment rate is very good here. You see, we're below pre-recession unemployment rate and very close to the federal rate. So we're doing a lot better, but these are lower paying jobs. The budget stabilization account, the governor does want to put in $3.5 billion. That would increase it to $8.5 billion. So is saving up for that statewide rainy day, although it would still be a small amount in the end. And the rainy day fund for education is getting nothing in it because we still have to meet these 3 criteria before anything goes in it. And we're not meeting those criteria, but the good side on that is that we're not required to only have a 6% return for reserve for economic uncertainty. So that puts that off on hold. So the governor's spending budget, there's $183 billion of state expenses, and those are going for all these different, that does actually equal up to 100%. I've added it up. And basically education is getting 30% of it. And, well, I'm sorry, K-12 education is getting 30%, and then there's still the higher education. So we do get the lion's share. Well, actually, Health and Human Services is getting a lot, but if you put the 2 educations together, we do get the most. Unfortunately, there's a whole lot for correction. It should be more for rehab. So the governor's proposal, as it goes for K-12, K-14, the Prop 98 has $74.6 billion in it, and almost 66%, $66 billion is for K-12. That's a $3.2 billion increase over the prior year. And with that, the majority of it would go to funding the LCFF. We have a 1.56% COLA, and it's going to be LCFF. They're funding the gap at approximately 44%,
which is double what was expected to be funded in January. So where in January, they were just funding the COLA, which was at that time 1.48%. They're clearly funding more than the COLA now, which is good. It'll close the gap to 97% paid off the gap. We'll have 3% left to go. Additionally, now this is the interesting one, $1 billion to discretionary funds. This is triple from what was expected in January. In January, we were expecting about $292,000 for next year's one-time funds. That has increased to approximately $1 billion. However, it's not going to be apportioned in his proposal until May 2019, which is not in the 17-18 school year. So it's in the 18-19 school year. And it will only be apportioned if, and to the extent of, if the Department of Finance determines that the 17-18 Prop 98 funds are equal to or greater than what the Budget Act has. So in other words, instead of funding it and, well, too late, we can't take it back, if they overestimate Prop 98, they'll just take it away from this $1 billion, and of course that would be taken away from us as well. And to what extent, I don't know, but it would be added to. They also said that we should not include it in the budget, which we know we would include it in next year's budget because it's not even being appropriated until the following year. And then they said not to. Everybody has said not to include it in the multi-year projection. We have school services, we have our auditors, and we have capital advisors. Everybody, and the county, everybody's advising not to include it. So we're going to build the budget accordingly and not include that. There's the other areas that are not so significant to us. The COLA for some categorical programs is there. But what is really interesting is the bottom there, you see the suspension of the statutory Prop 98 Test 3B, supplemental apportionments. Well, what that is Test 3B says that if you have to fund Prop 98 spending at the same level, or at least at the same level as non-Prop 98 spending. And it's not happening. The non-Prop 98 spending is higher than the Prop 98 spending, so instead of making us whole and funding it, they're suspending that part of Prop 98. And so, but that will automatically put it into the maintenance factor. They're also, so $347 million would go into the maintenance factor. That would be about $350,000 for us next year, which we will not get. And then for 3 more years, you see there's a skipped year. 17, 18 is not in there. The 3 more years from 18, 19 through 2020, 21, there's an additional $867,000 in there that will also be suspended and put into the maintenance factor, which means eventually we get it on in education, but we won't get back paid for it. They'll make us whole eventually, only from a date going forward. So that is actually quite significant. And again, we don't know if that's actually going to happen or not. So this slide you see every time, this is just so people can calculate how we determine our LCFF funding. So I put it here all the time. I just changed the COLA and the amount that we get for class size reduction. So if anybody's interested in calculating it, they can do so. So now we get down to the district and our multi-year projection, which will be coming to you next board meeting with our proposed budget. And it won't be up for action next meeting, and that will be the last meeting in June, but it will be out for the public and for you to see. And so we have, these are our COLAs for all the years. Again, for next year, it's 1.56%. And our LCFF gap funding is nearly 44% for next year. And you see the school services gap funding is the first set up there, and then the Department of Finance is the next set. And we go by the school services funding levels. But even though you look at it and you say, well, that's a considerable difference, we're talking about a narrowing gap. It's 3% is left. So, you know, the dollar amount that's associated with it is getting smaller, considerably smaller. So, and then we will be determining our funding based on our this year's ADA at P2. And that's even though we may or may not have declining enrollment, we will at least, we'll have declining enrollment protection for 1 year, as we had this year. We're getting monies equal to last year based on last year's ADA. Next year, if we have a lower ADA, we'll get our funding based on this year's ADA. So we're using this year's ADA to develop our budget. Our unduplicated count is going down. Like I said before, we used to be at 73.35%. We're actually now at 70.11, but we get a 3-year average. So in 17-18, we will be able to fund it. We will get funding at 71.27, and then the out years we reduce down. We don't know, and in the last slide I'll speak a little bit more to that, the unduplicated count. STRS and PERS, as we know, I say it every time, all the time. For years it's been growing, and it's going to continue to grow for years. And I have some special slides on that, so you'll be able to see that in greater detail. And then, of course, the budget is built to support the LCAP, the district LCAP. This is the community and the district LCAP that the community came together with the district to determine our priorities, and this budget will be supporting those priorities. So this is just to give you a little visual on the LCFF funding. I really wish I had my little pointer, but I don't. So if you start out at the far left and you see the blue line there, that's where we started. Oh, it has a pointer?
Just do.
Oh, okay. Right. All right, here we go.
Computer, there you go.
Yeah, okay, all right.
The
No laughing.
Just don't click.
Okay, well, maybe I'll tell you where these
Make it
things
work.
are. Right here.
We were following, don't
So
worry.
this is what the floor that we start. This is where our funding was at the beginning of 13-14, and we got this this middle line is the amount of gap funding we got throughout the time. So straight across is where we would be. Well, that's straight. Okay, so. Anyway, that little green line in the middle, that little green section is the gap funding that we've been getting. And as you can see, in 14-15, we got almost $5.5 million. And I have to read this because I can't see that now. And in 15-16, we got $6.9 million in gap funding. So 5.4, 6.9, 3.2 this year, and then we go down to 1.3, under $1 million in 18-19, 1.2 and 1.4 in 2021. Now I am using school services. The only difference here would be that this very last amount of funding, the 1.8, would be spread out between these 3 years according to if we went on the DOFs. And actually school service didn't have any. They stopped telling us what it was going to be at the last year, so I put 100% at the last year there.
I have a question, actually one that I've never asked before. So as I'm looking at, you know, how they're going to eventually make up for the gap and all these things, how does inflation come into play with all of this?
It's the COLA, which we know that inflation this
It's
year is
less
only
than-
1.56%, right?
That's
right.
2
Yeah,
point,
right.
no.
We know that, and in the past
right.
years, and if you look back, I mean, it doesn't go up much, only to like 2-point-something%. So we all live that, don't we?
So it doesn't cover it.
COLA is our inflation, all right, and that gets added to it, but clearly it doesn't do a whole lot. Now, in 07-08, before we got hacked down to the 78 cents on the dollar, just by taking what we were getting then and just adding the huge COLA for each year, this year, the year we're in right now, is the first year that we're actually getting a little bit more than we would if we only got COLA. So all that S&C grant funds that we're getting, the whole 12 million eventually, and we've got like 97%, we have finally made it just above what we would get if we just had the COLA added on a yearly basis from 07, 08. Okay, so here's STIRS. I normally gave you a chart with numbers, and this time I decided to give you a little graph so you can see it better again.
Thanks.
Actually, this green line here doesn't, you can't really see it very well, but this is before all those increases came. When we were just at the 8.25% forever, ever since I've been in schools, we were funding 8.25%. And then they said, nope, we've got to fund so we don't have this liability in the future in 30 years from now. This is to take care of a 30-year liability. We have to pay a lot more until that liability is taken care of, and then we should be cruising by then. But this is, we'd be paying here, I base this on this year's salary base, because you can't really compare it for the other years, because you got step and column, you got salary increases, you've got more teachers, fewer teachers. So in order to give it a good comparison, I made it like all of these years have this year's salary base. And so what we would be paying this year, if nothing changed, would be $2.7 million. Now, again, I have to look here, because I really don't have distance glasses, and it's kind of blurry. So $2.7 million, but when it's fully funded, when we're paying that full 19.1%, it's going to be $6 million, almost $6,400,000, because that little, you got $6 million there, but we got some more money up there. That's the additional amount. So these green amounts here is the addition year over year, paying this much more than that, this much more than that year, this much more than that year. And it's an even increase because it's a 1.85% increase year after year until you get to the last year. So we're talking about 132% more above what we were paying before. So once we get here, what we're paying here is more than double what we're paying here. So that's, and of course there was no, this is coming out of our, remember I told you we're ahead? We're ahead in the money we get, barely. But this eats all of that ahead up and will continue to do so. So, you know, when we had all those reductions before and we brought things back and everything, we just have to remember we're also paying for this. And if this isn't enough, we're paying for PERS too. So it looks very similar. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to do the back button, but the STIRS amounts, those were before they reduced their return on investment. And so now that they've reduced their return on investment, they're going to be likely coming back and increasing. Instead of 19.1%, it's probably going to go up. So that will probably go up higher too. And also they're saying people are living longer, which is true. So that means the money's got to go further, and so that means that the cost will go up as well. So PERS, similar situation. They started earlier because, you know, 20 years ago when I started working, they weren't paying anything for PERS. It was zero because the investments were doing so well. And now it's going to go up to 27.3% by 2024-25. So again, I did the same thing here. This is based on this year's salaries, and it is going up a total of 139%. So concerns and considerations for next year's budget. Again, I'm right back to that STIRS and PERS. By the time it's fully funded, we will be paying, of the general fund, restricted, unrestricted, combined, everything, we'll be paying 12 and a half or 1/8 of all of our expenditures in the general fund will be going to PERS and STIRS. Not the salaries, just the PERS and STIRS. And so again, here, we'll be paying almost 6.4, at today's level, if it was fully funded, $6.4 million in 1 year for STIRS, $2.5 million for PERS, $8.8 million for the two combined, and that again is before STIRS increases their rates even more. So, and what about the LCFF? Because that's our biggest funding source. Well, it's almost funded. We're 97%. So, will they just be increasing it by COLA, or will they be adding an additional amount to it later on? You know, they have more money, so let's add more. Will they be bringing back in categorical programs? Or will we be living with one-time funds as has basis? So when the state has money, they give us funds, and when they don't give us funds. And as I put down there, you can see the fluctuation of the one-time funds. And in 17-18, I would have to put the great big zero, because we're not going to get it till 18-19, if we get it. So you see, one-time funds are not, we don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I suppose, based on that 1% again, right? Will we continue to have declining enrollment? We don't know. And will our unduplicated count continue to go down? Will it stay steady? If it goes down because the state minimum wage is going up, and all these people will be, you know, wealthy, so they won't need that money, right? They won't need the free and reduced. Or unemployment is very low. If unemployment goes up, maybe we will have higher unduplicated count. On the other hand, depending on what this administration does, and if people are feeling safe to apply, that will affect it as well. So our unduplicated count is very important to us. We are currently in negotiations with both bargaining units. And I guess the big thing here is, how are we going to respond to a significant slowdown in ongoing funds? That is something that, you know, I'll be coming to you with the budget for next year at the next meeting, and we'll see where we're looking, what we're looking like. And I can tell you that our deficit spending will not be nearly as bad, maybe not even at all for this current year, we're hoping. In which case, you know, our out years will be able to push out any kind of reductions further and be able to use our reserves to continue the programs that we have now. Next steps, of course, you'll approve the budget before June 30th, and then it's a two-step process again, which I think I've already explained. The next meeting, there'll be the public hearing, and I'll show you the presentation. There'll also be the public hearing for the LCAP, and they go hand in hand. And at the following meeting, the budget, the LCAP will be approved, and then the budget to follow the LCAP. And then the state will pass its budget, and then we will adjust our budget accordingly. Questions?
I wanted to refer back to the correspondence regarding the budget that Mr. Vidales read. It was mainly positive, but it seemed like there was
caution.
This county superintendent had a couple concerns, right? Was it, I thought I heard you say about our deficit spending and program cuts?
Well, in order for us to keep the positive certification, we needed to build in unknown cuts, just an amount, in 18, 19, and 19, 20. And so the concern of the county at that point was, you need to start thinking about that sooner, look at your assumptions. We are looking at the budget right now and identifying locations where we budgeted too generously, or that maybe we don't need to budget as much for certain things, to try to get a budget that's closer to reality. And speaking to departments and schools and saying, you need to budget for what you think you will spend, not for what you would like to spend. And if you truly need more, at least the departments, we can make an adjustment, but we're not going to build a bigger allotment than we need to, because otherwise we're going to be forced to make cuts to be able to sustain phantom expenses, right? And we want to make sure our expenses are as accurate as possible. So if we do need to make reductions, that they're real reductions and not something to support a phantom expense.
Mm-hmm. So to make it a little more simple for most people, is the county superintendent suggesting that we stop spending as much of our reserves and spend within our means?
They're not being quite clear with that. They're just saying they have a concern about that. And Ms. Kessler and I were discussing, and it may be quite possible that right now we have unnamed cuts, that they may ask us at some point to name them so that they know that we are serious, So
All right, I think I understand.
Anyway, so that's part of the reason we're really looking at our budget allocations and trying to get closer to. And this is going to be a multi-year process. We're doing some this year. We'll review again next year and make sure that we have correctly allocated.
All right, thank you.
Anybody have questions? Okay. Thank you, Julie. Miracle. So I do have a speaker card. Melinda Dart.
Again, Melinda Dart, AFT 3267. I do want to remind everyone that employees also pay into their retirement, and in fact their portions have also increased, which is one of the things that makes salaries seem more stagnant than they would otherwise, because that's a cut from individuals as well. And in terms of the planning for 30 years out, one might think, is that fair? It seems to me to be a burden that is hurting districts, hurting employees, and it's too bad. And I would say whenever we meet with our elected representatives, we do need to bring this up, that this is a hardship that's hurting schools along with everything else, all other cuts, that it's just a burden that is unrealistic. 30 years is unrealistic. And the average teacher retirement across the country is $40,000. So we're not talking about, really high, lucrative retirements here. So, and of course, people do deserve the right to retire in dignity, and we appreciate the fact that that those contributions are going in there, but we know it also is, a real hardship to our district. And it puts us in a bind, but yet the district, I believe, needs to look forward and think, how are we going to address the need to keep younger teachers here and attract them here, and deal with the high cost of living here? I know it's really many pressures on the district, but for many years, at the end of the year, even in the years when we made cuts, there was always money left over at the end. And once it's left over, it's called one-time only money. So what does that mean? And how can we better plan? And perhaps it is being more realistic about what we're really spending. How can we better plan so that we can do something about employees, both certificated and classified, who make even less? And so it's so important, right, to be able to keep them here. This is classified week, right? It's so important that we have those people still in our community in order to give students, more adults on campus, more help. So it's a priority to, look at realistically what can we do about salaries and health insurance. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the speaker cards, then we'll move on. So our local control accountability plan update.
Just go ahead. Oh, good evening. Good evening. So I'll start with the local control accountability plan draft. Just to remind you of the process, and Ms. Kessler shared some of this information. This is a year-long process where we work with various stakeholder groups throughout the year. Some stakeholder groups, our key stakeholder groups, are heavily involved multiple times throughout the year. Right now we're in May, and so a final draft was presented to the Parent Involvement Advisory Committee and the District English Language Advisory Committee, PIAC and DLAC, last Tuesday, I believe, and to ask for their review, to review the plan, and also to seek their approval to bring it to you. And so we do, actually, I noticed we do have one member in our audience, May Chan. We had another member, her daughter was honored tonight as well, but I think she had to take her daughter home. So we have May Chan in the audience representing PIAC. I don't think we have DLAC. It's a little late for folks too, so thank you for staying. And the PIAC and DLAC committees did agree and approve to bring it to you to present. This is still draft form. We've been working with the technical assistants from the San Mateo County Office of Education, and they've been giving us some feedback. It's more on clarifying language than anything, and so you will see some changes in the next draft that will be coming in June, the June 14th meeting, and then the June 28th meeting, that both are with the budget, and so the June 14th is the public hearing, and then June 28th is the final approval. So to give you just an idea, this is the LCAP. It's 102 pages long. I did not make copies for everybody. I did make copies of a few things though. Just to give you an overview of what the template looks like. So we have the plan summary and highlights, which is that very first section. It's the white colored papers. It's only 4 pages. And so it's just an overview of what's in the plan, which is something new, which I think was a really great addition. And then it has the annual updates, what actions we said we were going to do, and then what we actually did, and how much we said we were going to spend, and how much we actually spent. And then also we have our stakeholder involvement, which is the other one I copied for you. It's also 4 pages, and it's in blue. And that's really how we engage the stakeholders, because this is supposed to be a transparent plan that has a lot of involvement of many different groups. And then we have our next steps. So our goals, actions, expenditures, and progress indicators, so our metrics, how are we going to monitor our progress for 2017-18, 18-19, and 19-20. And so next year, we're going to look at 18-19, 19-20, and then we'll look at 19-20, and then develop a new plan. So it's they've changed the format a little bit. And then we also have to say how we're spending the concentration grant, the supplemental grant funds for our unduplicated pupils, and how we're using those funds specifically for those groups of students, our English learners, low-income students, and foster youth. So to give you an idea of the highlights, it's really we tell our story, we go over just some major highlights, we have to share our greatest progress from this past year, our greatest needs from this past year, what our performance gaps are, and then what are we doing to increase and improve services. We also need to give a summary of the budget, but you're going to see it says to be put in the final. We're still working on that, so you'll see that in June. So to just give you some highlights, these are even highlights of the highlights. So our first goal, goal 1, is improving student learning outcomes. And so there was just funding, a major part of our plan is to give funding, local control back to the sites to support English learners, low-income, and foster youth students. We increased our computer ratio, 1-to-1 student to computer in our middle school, 6th grade. So, and we're continuing to do that. Next year it'll be 6th and 7th grade. And then we have also expanded our upper elementary and middle school athletics program. We had all sorts of events, track, field, volleyball, soccer, basketball, and I think we're adding in more as well. So that's a big highlight. And then also our summer learning. We are expanding so that every grade level has something. Some are pilot grades, but our big Lift summer program is entering K, entering first, and entering second. So that's going to be about 600 students, which is huge. And then we're going to do a pilot 3rd through 5th grade program, and then we also have a math program for 6th through 8th. So every grade level has some sort of summer program, and we're hoping to expand in the future. Our second goal is provide professional learning opportunities for all staff. And so just really focusing on differentiated professional learning for opportunities for everyone, certificated and classified, making sure that we honor that teacher collaboration time and that teachers are working together and collaborating and we give them time to do so. And then also, we have some high needs areas, so providing tuition assistance to make sure that we encourage folks to go into those areas where we need staff. So goal three is providing a positive school climate or environment. And so we're increasing mental health and counseling programs. We had every school site has a positive behavior intervention support system. They're all at different levels, but we have it at every site, which is exciting. And then we're also continuing to upgrade our playground and structures. And then we're doing a replacement cycle. So each year, different schools are getting replacement of desks and chairs. And then our final goal is increasing community engagement. And so making sure every school site had a family night this year in collaboration with AFT and PTA. And then we've had a lot of community events, making sure that communication is out in multiple languages. We've also tried to increase our social media presence and also communicating in email and school messenger to families to let them know about events. And then we're trying to really build on our online parent portal so parents can see how their students are performing. So our greatest progress, we aligned our district plan to all of our site plans. I don't know if you noticed with all the site plans that came through, they all had the same exact goals as the district plan. So that was huge this year that we were able to align that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we had every 6th grader in all of our middle schools and our K-8 school, 1-to-1. Every student received a device, and I know Ms. Baroni came and shared a little bit more information about that recently. We implemented some district-wide programs, school climate services, so social emotional learning as well, and then writing workshop was another focus, and so that was implemented district-wide. And then we had family nights, as I mentioned, at all sites. And then, of course, the big lift, our pre-K to 3rd grade initiative. We continue to expand learning opportunities. We opened another elementary, another preschool at an elementary site this past year. So our greatest needs, so the state has indicators. It's called the California Dashboard, which I presented to you previously. And so we have to use those indicators to say what our greatest needs are. Some of the data is old, but we still have to address it. So our suspension rates, you can see the asterisk there, is 2013-14 data and 14-15 data comparison. But it's a lot of our student groups have high suspension rates, and so we need to make sure that we monitor that. There's also a discrepancy in English language arts and math achievement for students with disability and African American students compared to all students. So there's a gap there. And then we also have a discrepancy in math achievement for our white students compared to all students. So there's a gap there. And then our local indicators, what we identified through the LCAP, what we want as metrics, we have chronic absenteeism. That is going to be a state indicator, but they don't have the results out yet because they're still building that. But we see it in our system that there was a small rise in chronic absenteeism. Oops. We need more participation in our family survey. We didn't meet our target. And then we also didn't meet our target with our school climate survey for students. So those are some areas that we want to focus on. A lot of our areas are focused on our students' behavior. And so, based on those, we have some changes. So a lot of the plan has remained the same, but we do have some changes. So we want to improve our data collection because they're giving us old data. So we want more current data. So we're going to be working towards having a better system and getting some technical support to help with that system and data collection so that we have current data, immediate data, so that we can be actionable and support our students. And then we're increasing summer learning opportunities. As I mentioned, what's happening this summer, we hope to build upon that as well. We're going to be looking at new curriculum adoptions to better match the Common Core state standards. We'll start with math next year in all grades, and then 6th through 8th with English language arts. And then continuing to train staff on social emotional learning curriculum. This is, as you can see, with what our greatest needs are. A lot of it is behavior and how our students feel about school and feel about their own needs, and so making sure that we address social emotional learning. And supporting staff with how to do that, because that's something quite new to many of our staff. And then we also notice that we need to increase our district-wide services, counseling services, to be proactive with interventions. So when we're seeing minor behaviors, we can address them before they get to major behavior issues. And then also students with IEPs, we're seeing a lot more behavior concerns, and so increasing that behavioral support for those students that have individualized education plans, special education. And then making sure that we had it in last year's plan. We weren't able to hire this year, but we are going to hire a school resource coordinator to build that community engagement and build those community schools. So next steps, as I mentioned before, we have the public hearing at our next meeting, and then final approval, hopefully. We have to send it to the San Mateo County Office of Education by July 1st, and then they'll let us know by October 8th. However, they've been working with us along the way, so they're giving us guidance and telling us, oh, you need to make sure you clarify this and that, so that when we actually come to you with a plan, the county office will say it's going to be approved. So they're kind of preventing any sendbacks. Any questions?
Me first?
You go first.
Should I say, slide 8.
Let's see if I can go back, yeah.
Suspension rates. Do we have a district-wide program for alternatives to suspension?
That's what we're working on, and that's part of being that proactive. With that other slide that showed the counselor services, district-wide counseling services for the proactive interventions, to make sure that we support students that are suspended, and so using those counseling services to help come up with alternative settings, alternative supports. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. So I guess I'll make a suggestion that we look into having, it's called ATS, Alternatives to Suspension, so that we,
Ms. Martinez
instead of after the fact of them getting suspended, giving them
Right.
services, something else can happen.
Exactly, and that's what actually Mrs. Martinez has been working on, and so it's not ready to roll out yet, and so that we still want to make sure that we have appropriate placement in things that we're looking at. We want to actually prevent students from getting suspended in the first place.
Right.
And so that's a lot of the work that she's doing as well
Right.
with her team. Did you want to say?
That's great.
No, I just wanted to say, and we've spoken about this in the past. It is a mind shift that has to happen, a mindset shift that has to happen. Traditionally, discipline means exclusion, and so we're needing to rethink what a proactive discipline policy is, or even a reactive one that focuses on supporting students to re-enter the community that they've done something to violate, whether it's a person or the classroom or something. So it's a new way of thinking that is slow to catch on. I think the event that AFT is sponsoring next week is one step of education. There's an educator component happening right at 3:30, then the community-wide event later. So I think all of these efforts, what we're doing at the district, is trying to shift. One, how do we prevent students from choosing a poor behavior? And if they do choose a poor behavior, how do we support them to not do that again, besides just telling them don't come to school for a couple days and then act again the same way on Friday? So that's been the pattern. We know that negative discipline does not work, but there's a sense of justice, I think, on some's behalf, that eliminating or excluding at least feels good to those that are doing the elimination or the exclusion. And sometimes it does provide a potential release of whatever tension existed. But if we can minimize those and increase others, I'm not saying that suspension is never the right thing, but we could probably do it less and do something that might be more effective. So we don't have a district-wide program, to answer your question, but we're working at different ways of incorporating a district-wide program and experimenting at different school sites. I think next year's LCAP, Ms. Martinez and I have been discussing lots of different possibilities to build in if we could have some increase in funding from the state to be able to implement, or redirection of existing funding. Now that we've done some things for a couple of years, we may need to reduce some other things so we can do something new.
The suspension was
Great.
created in a different era, and it worked in a different era. It doesn't work anymore.
That's true.
Can you repeat that last?
Suspension, that was created in a different era, when, you were sent home and it was worse to be at home. And so now it's different, with the technology that we have, being at home is not a punishment or not a deterrent from
Parents aren't all
behavior.
home either.
Right, and so and I've been at trainings where that's been mentioned, that it's no longer
The same
a deterrent for
effect.
students.
Yes.
And so we need to rethink how we support our students in that way.
There's been a lot of discussion on this, even at the school board association level, and I think we need to have some more discussion on this. We need to be able to hear from parents and everybody involved. Because at one time, several years back, since I've been here a long time, there was, when a child did something, they didn't necessarily get sent home. They were sent to another facility, another building, or if you had room in your school, there was another classroom that they could send some of those children to do their work. So I think it's something we have to look at really closely, because it's not helping a child or the family by suspending. So I hope we can get that.
We are.
Yeah, really working on that.
All right, thanks. And then just one more question on, so slide 9. Actually, I have small questions about the last 2 bullet points.
Oh, I went too far, darn it.
Or dots, I should say.
The-
It doesn't
the
have to
one
be a
before
bullet. So increased behavioral support for students with IEPs. Could you give us an example of specifically what that support would look like?
Yes, I can.
All right.
So, as Mr. Adams has reported, we are serving more of our students within our districts rather than sending them to a county program or a non-public school setting. And so students, we are serving more students with more severe disabilities, and some of those disabilities are around behavior. So part of the increase in behavioral support we have is one of our psychologists will be getting their certification, their BCBA certification, which brings that service in-house and allows us to be more dynamic in providing support. We're also going to be training several of our special circumstance instructional aides on how to be behavior supports, so that they can go into a classroom and support a student, work with the other aides in the classroom, train them, and then there sort of a mobile support unit and move around the district as needed. So that's is Mr. Adams' plan. Again, we're starting from a very low level of knowledge, and so we need to build up that knowledge and expertise in-house rather than being dependent on external sources of knowledge. And we will do that in certain settings, but we do want to build up more of our own capacity to do that.
All right. Thanks. And then hire a school resource coordinator. Could you just say a little bit more about that?
Yes,
either
that's
one?
the community school
That's what I
coordinator. We're looking at first at a school site, Woodrow Wilson. And so having built, because they already are, in essence, a community school, so having someone coordinate the effort.
Yes.
Is Mr. Allen has a full-time job as well, so having someone coordinate all the services, and so that's really what that is.
All right. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was for the community school or not. So, all right, great. That's it for me.
I have one question, but I wanted to say thank you to you throughout the year for leading the PIAC meetings. Every time I've been to them, they're always well prepared, and there's always great engagement with my parents and teachers and staff. So I just want to thank you for that. I did have one question on slide 8. I think I've been to several of the PIAC meetings, and you've mentioned kind of responses to like school surveys, like for the school climate and family participation. I was just wondering, is there, do you guys know why there might be a decrease in participation, that less than what they expected?
The family survey or the student survey? The family survey?
The family, yeah.
Yeah, I think we just need to get the word out more, and I think that's part of it. I think there was a big push previous years, and then we had a glitch with the system last year, and so then we just need to, I think, all work together to get the word out more and encourage families to show that this is actually a key part of our district plan and how we want to make decisions. So it's really, I think, just messaging. That's my opinion, though. I don't know for sure. I don't know if it's lack of interest. I hope it's not.
Well, I was just going to come just a little bit from the sublime to the ridiculous, but I have to say, on the replacing the student desks and chairs, I had the pleasure of sitting Monday night on one of the new chairs. I've been sitting in school chairs for upwards of a half a century, and they all have yanked out hair from all the rivets. The new chairs do not have rivets back there, do not have things to pinch fingers or pull hair, and I am really pleased with that. It's a little thing, but even the little things like that can help when the kids are having trouble focusing, so there we go.
Okay, Shaquille, you had something else?
Yes, I just wanted to also point out on slide 8, the discrepancy, ELA and math achievement for students with disabilities and African American students compared to all students. So, we've been talking about this since I've been on the board, and probably since before I was on the board, about the achievement gap with African American students. So I just wanted to bring to your attention the EdCal magazine. There's a study that shows that, well, a study shows positive effects of same-race teachers. So it says in here that according to the study, black primary school students matched to a same-race teacher perform better on standardized tests and face more favorable teacher perceptions. They found that assigning a black male to a black teacher in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th grades significantly reduces the probability that he drops or she drops out of high school, particularly among the most economically disadvantaged black males. Exposure to at least one black teacher in grades 3 to 5 also increases the likelihood that persistently low-income students of both sexes aspire to attend a 4-year college. And then it says teacher expectations, which could affect how resources are allocated among students, including teacher time and effort or advanced placement classes, are some of the behaviors that the teachers had that could lead to success. And let's see. So I think that was pretty much it. So I don't know, do you get these magazines as well, EdCal? So I think we should look into that and find out what we can do to recruit more black male teachers. And yes. Oh, you pointed at you.
They are.
Yeah. I think, Mr. Ali, you mentioned this in your last point, but one of the things we discovered a couple years ago that seemed to work, but we dropped it, but it is around the teacher expectation and connection and relationship. We focused on ensuring that students that have not performed had an adult connection at the school site, and that adult connection was built and continued. And we have seen, and this research provides it support, that when that exists, students feel connected to the school and to their own learning. And sometimes, much of this connection is unconscious, and that's why same race matters. because that unconscious connection is there. But some of these connections, I think, can be achieved consciously. And I think we could probably do more to make that explicit to all of our staff members.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because that's actually what stood out to me more so than it being the same race, was the high expectations of the teacher. But also with high expectations, you have to have a high level of support as well. So I think these are good things for us to talk about district-wide as
And
well.
also the social emotional learning, making those connections is part of that social emotional learning as well, making sure that they self-regulate, but also how do you connect with others and communicate with others. So, and that's a focus as well. So we'll see, we'll watch and monitor our data to see if that supports all
And-
students and shrinks the gap.
This might also be a good time to bring back up to the front a reminder that we need to be considering how we're going to work implicit bias training into all of our professional development, because that is also very directly connected to that issue.
That's true.
Well, you kind of stole my show.
Oh, sorry.
Since no one mentioned it, I had it down here. This was what I was going to talk about. But as long as I've been on the board, it seems it's the same thing over and over, I think we're doing better probably with the disability of the children. They're not identified the way they used to be, and it's better, but it's not perfect. But the African American students, I think we really need to be sure that we're giving them the best that we can give them so they can achieve. And that's something, it may be happening, but we're not seeing the results. We need to see the results.
Yeah.
Then the next one is discrepancy in math achievement for white students. Now, is that because Asian students are doing better?
So
in
some
that?
of the category for white is actually our Arab students who are English learners, and so, but they're still in the category. So
Oh.
that's my assumption, is that could be some, in English, even if you're a newcomer, you take the math achievement. Math
Yeah, I
test.
think we looked at that last fall. 43% of students who who identify as white or are placed in that category are English learners, and 56% of them are English learners or redesignated. So over half of our students who are white at some point were more proficient in a language other than English. So. And that's changed in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And that wasn't there the last time we had
Yeah.
standardized testing. Not just Arabs, Middle Eastern students, Eastern European students, lots of students from Portugal, many European countries. They're all fall into that category, which makes it, mathematics especially. So, learning the English language is a challenge, and these math assessments rely on a greater command of the English language.
So for whatever the reason is, for any of these categories that we have, we need to look at that and.
One of the things
Something a little different.
that we do, and we'll be clear to do this again, is we look at the students who've been with us for 2 or more years, and we pull those students out. And in the past, our African American students, our English learners, all of the students that we struggle with, and especially those that have a smaller number of students in that group, we do better with the kids who stay with us. So our African American students, for example, do better with us if they've been with us 2 or more years. It is a smaller population, so when we lose our 8th graders and we get a new set of 2nd or 3rd graders, plus any other shifts in transiency or whatever, moving and coming in at any other grade levels, the newer students, those who've been with us less than 2 years, don't do as well as those who've been with us 2 or more years. And those students who been with us 2 or more years tend to show greater improvement as well. We don't have improvement for those who are with us less than 2 years, but those that are with us show a larger improvement. So we'll make sure that we include that analysis when we do our data. And it was true several years ago. I think we looked at it briefly this fall, and I think it was true then as well. We'll just highlight that because it is a continual status that not just us, but our county in general our state, our country struggles with. And so we wanted to see where are we being successful with that, and that's what the LCAP task force that we've assembled this year is looking at where are we being successful with the students that we as a district might be having a difficulty improving achievement for.
It'd be nice to get to the point where every child learns no matter what. I don't know if I see that day. Okay. Thank you, it was a great report.
Thanks, Sandy.
Easy to read.
Yeah.
All right, so, I think we've done all this now, let's see. We are at
Minutes format.
okay, item D, minutes format.
Yeah, I brought this forth. It was recommended by the board to bring this forth back in our January governance meeting, but there wasn't quite the right meeting to do it. We've been pretty full, so I'm bringing it forth to you now. This is around the discussion that we had. Can we bring our minutes format to be closer to what is required of a public agency versus right, and you have two different samples. One is how we've approached it in the past, and the other one is something that is still a little bit more than what is required, but I think could be equally useful with the annotation of video minutes. So it's an opportunity for the board to discuss this and provide us some direction with your action.
Mm-hmm.
Could I ask a question for Ms. Vidalis? What is the, I guess, is it the minimum legal?
What is the requirement? Yeah.
Yes.
The requirement is that we include who made the motion, who seconded the motion, and how each member voted. That's the requirement. And in terms of public speakers, who spoke, what they spoke about. Is that it? Yeah, those two things. Who spoke and what the topic of their comment was.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I want to say, I looked over what the, the sample that you gave us for the new minutes format, and I thought that it was, perfectly adequately informative, and actually quite a bit clearer, I thought, and easier to follow than the old format. So I thought it was a win-win in both ways, both being simplified and presumably, I hope, less work for Ms. Coveret over here, and also easier to look at it and really see just what happened in the meeting without lots of minutia.
Yes.
And so, so we thought we would capitalize on what we have available with technology. Now that our meetings are videotaped and we do publish our videos, that we can annotate it with meeting minutes, and that way people can skip to a certain section if they wanted to get the full essential transcript. Not really a transcript, they can just hear it themselves. They get the actual language to use versus somebody else's transcription or summary.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to take up the amount of time that I will take up on this item, but I found it not to be as informative as it should have been. And I think there's some things I'd like to have an opportunity to meet with Mr. Vidalis and talk to him instead of me turning to every page here and have a comment. Also, we have one board member not present, and I'd like to hear from her as well. So if we want to talk about some of it, we can, but you don't want to wait for me to tell you all the items that I found that I felt needed something other than what was there.
Well, Ms. Brizuela, I think that conversation is something to be had with the full board and not just with me. So
yeah.
So I think maybe we take the time now to have that discussion because I don't feel comfortable making any changes unless the full board gives me that direction.
Okay, well, that's right. I just thought I wanted to give you a heads up on some of the stuff. Okay, so if then, since I agree with part of what you said, naturally, or all of it, then we'll hold this off until we have all 5 members present? Is that what you're saying?
No, I just suggested that conversation be had with the full board instead of with me.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, I think for us to talk about it, this happened on another item. When you're missing one board member, when it's, you want the input from all of them, it's pretty hard to bring it back later. So,
Well, I think that we have a quorum, and also we discussed this at our
Governance
board
session.
self-evaluation.
Mhm.
So Ms. Liana Anoa'i gave her input at that time.
Mhm.
we didn't have a document to look at.
True.
Well,
So we have a couple options. One is we can have a motion and a second to table this till a time that we have all 5 board members, if that should happen. Or we can move and second to approve the sample, or we can make some adjustments to the sample and then move in second to approve that.
Well, I guess then we need to hear what adjustments are being proposed.
So is there?
I felt that it was not, there's too much not being direct what the item is. It's just like opened. In other words, somebody commented. Okay, somebody commented, period, without saying whether they were in favor of this or, you know, in other words, just a comment. So somebody looking at it, they're gonna just say, oh, someone made a comment. But if they know what it is, they may take the time to go to dig up the tape. First of all, not everybody has a tape. What I'm hearing from various folks, some of our items that are listed are not explaining what it is, so they don't know if they have a concern or not. And I didn't write it all down, but if you want, I'll just take the time to go through each page and try to tell you what I see.
So your request, and I think it could be adjusted, is that your request is that if there is a position expressed in a comment, that position be stated in the minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that's an accommodation that can be made.
And also, throughout this, I know this was a form you guys put together, and I know it wasn't like it's going to be perfectly done, but there's throughout here, and you're the English major here, it should be all past. Minutes are past, and it's all present. In some cases, sometimes it's past. Present, you know, in the for language.
What I'm seeing is that those quick, like some of the quick summary things which are lifted directly out of the agenda are, you know, if I'm following you correctly, you know, like there's a quick summary under persons wishing to address the board, and that is in the present tense because that is directly how it is in our agenda.
But it's not supposed to be. Minutes are supposed to be past.
Yep.
I've done minutes for this district. I've done minutes for other.
Can I say that I think that that's really a trivial issue? I mean, what we have here, a quick summary is in present tense. It's an explanation of what that section of the agenda was. It's not a recording of what was actually done or said in the meeting.
Yes, it is. It said at the meeting.
Yeah, where it says, I'm looking at, for example, in the top of page 4, the quick summary of the persons wishing to address the board. And yes, that is in present tense. It says this portion of the agenda is available, because that's the explanation of the portion of the agenda. That's the only thing that I was seeing. What I'm seeing is those quick summaries are because those are what is in the agenda.
No, it's not only there, it's throughout all of this. I'm just saying this is a sample, but to me, it's not a sample that I can feel comfortable about because it's written in present tense rather than past tense. So that's one thing.
I see all the actions that I see are written in past tense. It's the actions that were passed, but, you know.
I think if we wanted to stay consistent, we could, it's not going to be, that's rewriting the whole agenda to move every verb to a past tense in the item, and I'm not sure that that's going to save us any time, and it's not even required. I think what we could do is put everything in the present tense, like like page 1, like Mr. Ali, like at this point, Mr. Ali commends all of the teachers, like. But that would be easier to do than it would be to go back and rewrite the whole agenda in the past tense. That's not going to.
To be honest, from a linguistic perspective, I don't have any trouble with the idea of the quick summary of the action being lifted straight out of the agenda and put in there, even though it's in the present tense and our minutes, the actions that we took are referred to in the past tense. Can I say to me it's a trivial point that is not really worth the time distracting us from actually doing things for our students. The meaning is entirely clear, and I think the relationship to the agenda makes that kind of an inevitability.
Let me move on.
Okay.
And you guys are referring to pages, and they're not numbered and such, so I'll tell you the number of the page that is going to probably get you to where I'm at. So,
or for that matter, just the item number and the,
that's my page. Okay, so on page 179, it says a particular parent's name at FDR school commented on FDR school. I mean, you're saying something, but you're not saying anything. What was the subject that he spoke about? It tells you nothing. If I was reading it, I would say, gee, I guess it wasn't that important if they didn't write down what it was. But how would I know if it was important or not unless you said what the subject was? Sometimes we say the subject, sometimes we don't. So.
And that's where your original comment, and I noted it, that could be a possible adjustment if the board decides, is that we would express the position, if there was a position expressed or an opinion expressed, we would add that to it in addition to the subject they spoke about, which is what is required. So.
Okay, so there wasn't even a subject on this one, that's why.
Yeah.
No,
Not really. Spoke
there is
about
a
a school.
school.
He
But I
came
mean-
to speak about a particular school, yes.
But to me, that's not saying the subject.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that we can add a position or an opinion that was expressed at that time about that subject.
Okay.
That is an adjustment that can be made.
Okay. So, in the meantime, I will go ahead. I won't be griping about the quick summary, even though I know I'm right, having done minutes for many more years than most of you probably would imagine. So anyway, and changing one word in that summary to be present, past, would be not that difficult to do. But, okay, I won't go on that one. But there seems not to be identifying what the subject matter is. And that's important. If you want people to know what is going on at a meeting, or if there's something they want to follow up on, you got to say what it is.
I'm not sure I'm following. Each of the sections has, that's the quick summary is telling us what that was. That's, just as it was in the agenda.
No, it doesn't. The quick summary on what I'm talking about, that I'm looking at, says that the portion of this agenda is available for individuals to comment or address the board on any issue that's under the board's jurisdiction. So this could have been any item under the.
It is, yeah, but it's listed there. It's under the section. If you look back, it got cut off on the previous page. It's the section, persons wishing to address the board. That
Right.
title is explained exactly as it is in our agenda.
You don't understand.
No, I don't.
We-
I'm not following what
Okay.
your problem is.
I'm not-
I mean, your problem with the
Okay.
text.
I don't have a problem. Trying to be able to make my comments on how to make this better without making it any more work. When someone is told they can address the board, we have no idea what that's going to be until they come up to the microphone. But we do say it should be a matter that's under the jurisdiction of this board, which is, I agree with that. But to say that somebody came up and spoke about FDR, well, did they say that they liked the windows? You know?
Yeah, okay, we've been through that. I thought you were having a problem with how the summaries of the different sections were put together. I mean, because we've talked about that.
You're not listening to me because I already said I won't argue that point.
Right.
I've already said that. You missed my
But you
saying
also
it.
already said, and Mr. Vidalis acknowledged, that we might want to put more information in these people's comments.
So why are you still saying something when?
Well, because
we
you
already agreed.
brought it up again. I thought you were talking about something different because you brought it up again. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I misunderstood what you were after.
Yeah, I already said I'm okay with this, but I also feel that we need to. All right, we're only talking about what we want, what we don't want. Okay.
So I think, may I make a suggestion? I
Yes.
think we could, if we choose to move and pass this, we will have a couple of times to try the minutes in the format that you approve, and then why don't we come back and visit this again, perhaps before the school year starts or sometime in July or August.
Since we do some things with a first reading and a second reading, I'd like to make this the first reading to give another board member an opportunity to look at it as well. And I think that city councils do this.
So I think you
school
could
districts
discuss
do
that
it.
among yourselves, if that's
I'd
what you
like
want
to
do.
make a motion that we approve it with the adjustments that Mr. Vidalis agreed to.
I would like to second that.
Is there,
We have a motion and a second.
those that say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll say no, as out of respect for another board member, that I would like to see what she had to say about this.
I will bring this back after we've done a couple of meetings with
I'd like
this
it
minutes.
brought back at the next meeting so she can look at it.
That's the same item. We will bring it back. I can do it in August. After we have,
because
we'll
of
have-
vacation?
yeah, we'll have, it's 3 or 4 meeting minutes to reflect on at that time.
Okay, well, I didn't go through the whole thing, so I'll send you some other,
Mm-hmm.
I'll write up the rest of the ones that we haven't discussed it, because I think nobody's really looked at everything here.
Ironically, that particular meeting was one of our most highly watched meetings on YouTube. So it was, people were discussing more than.
Tell me how many and.
Yeah, I can. When you come into the office, I'll let you know how many views.
Yeah. They don't understand what all
I can
this
let you
is.
know how many views were made on that particular meeting because it was quite highly spoken about at many school sites.
So, okay, when they watch it, do they say things?
People?
They reply? I don't know.
No,
what
no,
YouTube
no.
is
You
like.
just listen to. It's just watching it on TV.
So how do you know that they watch the
Oh, because
whole
it
thing?
tells you how many views
it
have been. It counts how many people have viewed.
That we're not-
Yeah.
Do they watch the entire meeting?
That's not known. We don't know.
Okay.
But I do know from informal comments that this particular section was watched widely
This particular section?
of public comment.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Of the public comment for that particular meeting.
Of the public comment?
Yeah.
That
I don't know.
particular, that section of that meeting with the public comments was watched more than.
About the minutes?
Right.
No.
No, about the public comments
The
in
public
that
comments
sample.
made during that meeting were referenced from a wide variety of individuals across the district.
I'm losing you. What item
I'll
was it
explain
they
to
were
you later,
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. It just so, I said ironically, we chose a meeting to summarize. We have, Maria just looked, yeah, she said that we've had 246 views of that, at least a portion of that meeting.
Well, I can almost tell you why then. I just saw.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, okay.
I mean, that's why I said ironically, people who were interested in what was said,
Yeah.
they knowledge from the direct speakers through the.
Microphone.
Okay, so that has been
Yeah, I
passed?
understand
Okay,
now,
yeah,
right.
all right. And we'll bring it back in late summer for review after we have a couple of meeting minutes to reflect on
Okay.
with the adjustments that were made.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, I
Bailey.
appreciate that. Okay, so now back to my agenda. So we're moving on to board meeting guidelines already, huh? Okay, this, we were talking, we brought it up last time, that we're doing very well with these, and rather than take the time at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of the meeting, could we just do it at the end of the meeting to reflect on it? Instead of taking the time to
That
do it?
seems
Is that right?
reasonable to me.
It seems like we want to make the meetings shorter
Mhm.
and not do extra talking, so.
Mhm.
All right,
Yep.
so, have we an agreement with that, or do we have to take a
It'd be
motion?
perfectly fine to assume that we will look at it and think about them through the meeting and then be prepared to.
Yeah, so
reflect at
this
the
is
end.
this is not for action, because it actually is in our governance handbook, but I can,
Right.
based on your direction and this conversation, I can include it in the governance handbook and then bring it back for approval.
Okay.
So what we want to do is just discuss it once at the end.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it might be helpful for you to reflect on all of the meeting guidelines instead of just
Just
one.
one, yeah.
So if you do it at the end, you'll still have your placemats, and we'll still have the guidelines before the meeting up, and we'll have them again at the end.
Okay.
I just have one question. So I know these guidelines were, like, the process was adopted before I got on the board. I guess, could you give some background, I guess, on the rationale for all the guidelines? Is it just for kind of cohesiveness on the board, or is there more background behind it?
I think it's every organization, every board, every group is supportive. It supports to have meeting norms, sometimes referred to. Guidelines is how CSBA refers to them as. They were written a long time ago, and then 4 years ago or so, we just added to those. And then this last year, we actually took some time to edit what was there and said, actually, this is the same thing as the other one. And so we tried to reduce them and streamline them. So that's, and essentially they're just to help a group sort of agree to work together, abiding by these guidelines. And then the reflection component was added, I believe, 2, maybe 3 years ago, so that the board can reflect at each meeting how well or not these guidelines were followed. Because prior to that, they just sat in our governance handbook, and we didn't look at them again until the following year's governance meeting. So the board made the change at that time to bring it at every meeting, at the beginning and at the end. And so now what I hear is that we still want it at every meeting, but not necessarily take the time at the beginning to review them and choose one, but understand that at the end, there will still be a time to reflect on how well you as an individual board member or the board as a whole followed the meeting guidelines, any one of them or all of them.
Honestly, we don't spend a lot of time in the beginning when whoever's the president asks for us to reflect. The president usually just looks around, and then we just keep going with the meeting, so.
Well, we do wait until everyone picks it. But
I don't feel, I feel, let's just talk honestly and openly, because of some of the statements that were made tonight, I don't want to rush into changing this process right now. I think we need to leave it as it is.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because we have different people in the audience at the meetings from different schools for different reasons. And when we're doing this, we've had people come to us afterwards, or at least to me, I don't know, people speak to you about the meeting and saying, what was that all about? They didn't know what we were doing. That's why tonight I took it upon myself to explain what we're doing. That's all. So if you want to leave it like that, we leave it like that. But I was told, let's make the meetings go shorter, let's, we got to hurry along, So I thought that would be something that we have it, we know, we voted on it. We know that every meeting we look at this thing, but we're not imposing the public to sit there and watch us look at back and forth. That's all. So you guys can vote vote however you want. It's not like we're not doing this, we're doing it.
So, yeah, so this is.
Discussion, we're not
It's a
voting.
discussion. So right now, I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so right now, I'm not getting clear direction from the board, so I would like some more clarity so that I know how to pursue this. It's not a vote, but I want at least a consensus that I have a recommendation to come to the board with.
It sounds to me like we just don't want to spend too much time in the beginning on it, just glance at it and, you know, and reflect on it at the end. It's not that complicated to me.
So could we say that maybe we still want to call out at the beginning of the meeting, you know, just to without taking particularly time to sit there and think about it and pick one, but just to make a verbal reminder to check the.
What might help, maybe for
Guidelines.
explanation, if you don't mind, we could add an explanatory sentence or two. At this moment, board members will silently review the board meeting guidelines and select, and so silently and privately review the board meeting guidelines. I mean, we don't even have to pause there. We just assume that it happened. I mean,
And we
if
don't,
that's.
and I actually kind of like the idea of not selecting one, but reflecting at the end on all of them. You know, that, but I do kind of
agree.
also agree with Mr. Ali that consciously calling them to our attention as we start the meeting might not be a bad thing. Even if we're not, you know, so even just saying that, you know, board members will, you know, remember that there are guidelines. I don't know, you know, I liked what your thing of just putting the little note in
Little
there in the
descriptor.
agenda, a little descriptor of why we're spending 30 seconds scanning our desktops.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Do you want to try that for a while? Because we don't have to bring the governance handbook back
Right.
for
Yeah.
that. That's just an adjustment to the meeting for the agenda format.
Well, I like that, not having to
good
bring
to
the
me.
handbook back and talk about that. Sure.
So why don't we try it for a
So
couple
you're
of
gonna put
meetings?
that on the board, though? You're gonna have people see that?
Yeah, on the agenda.
No,
on
no,
there.
that will not be on the agenda. That will be here.
Here.
Oh,
always.
okay.
Because what I'm finding is that the audience don't
They
all
don't see
know
it.
what we are sitting here doing.
What we're
And
looking
it's
at.
like we're taking some kind of discussion or action, and they don't know what we're doing.
I see what
That's
you're
all
saying.
I'm
Oh, so
saying.
your suggestion might be that we
I
just
get it.
write it on this slide that say, at the beginning of each meeting, board members will reflect this and
Review the
review them
guidelines.
at the end, so that there's an explanation piece.
I mean, maybe you
that's
guys
doable.
didn't get people asking you, but I had people
No
asking,
one
what are you
asked me,
guys
but
talking
I
about?
understand now what you're saying, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
I don't think that's a problem. I think
Yeah.
just make it really
Whatever.
clear so no one can get confused. I have no problem with that at all.
No.
Because we're not really changing what we're doing,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do reflect on this, and we do at the end of the meeting, but we were
It
told
was
to pick only
awkward.
one. Well, I agree, we can't pick one sometimes. And sometimes we pick the same thing as the other guy does. Anyway, sorry I brought it up.
No, I kind of get it now. It's like an awkward moment
It
for
was
those
awkward
people.
for me when I
All
had
right.
people ask me,
All
what are
right,
you
I
guys
got you.
talking about?
Okay.
So, okay,
Okay.
whatever. We'll move on. Okay, so next to our start items, so on 3 start items, 4 start items. Back to
Right.
the rest of the agenda.
12A, I
All the way down to item
Down
12.
to item 12, certificated personnel. Brent, that's yours.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of ironic. This morning, I was over at FDR, speaking of FDR, giving a potential teacher who I'm trying to recruit here to teach first grade, and we were visiting Miss Allard's class. She's retiring this year, and I wanted to give the teacher an opportunity to meet Margaret, and it was really great. And as I was walking in, all the kids were asking me about my rings, and, you know, then I'm walking in, and all the kids trying to follow me like the ducks, and then I, by accident, walk on top of this little mall they're making. I was like Godzilla, and, you know, it was so wonderful to be around kids again. It was wonderful. So, you know, Margaret and I don't know each other too well. I've really gotten to know her more in the last few years. But, you know, she's going to be a missed person. She's a veteran of our district for many years, and she's doing her retirement. So the district, sadly, but happily on the same note, is recommending that we approve her retirement.
Right.
So.
I've had the pleasure of being in her classroom several times, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
she does engage those students,
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the retirement request of Margaret Ullard, first grade teacher, FDR, effective June 10th, 2017, and that an appropriate resolution be prepared commending her for her years of service with the district, which I make out to be something like 26 years.
26 years.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, we got a speaker.
And then, sorry, we have some resignations, for all sorts of reasons, and some of these folks I've worked more closely with than others. I do want to thank all the folks that have given service here in our district over the years, and some, like I mentioned, Ms. Fink, who I worked with at Fernando as a science teacher, and of course Ms. Moore, who I worked with closely when I was a principal over policy. But to all the folks, I want to thank for their years of service moving forward.
Okay.
So we have a motion?
Yeah, I recommend that we accept the resignation requests of the teachers as listed, with resolutions prepared commending those with 10 or more years of service with the district.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll go down to classified personnel, but I think we've started on those two. Okay.
Excellent.
So, we already approved that one.
We're
So
at
now we're down
14,
to item
yeah.
14. Board member comments, reports, and reflections on board meeting guidelines.
I was focused on keeping our focus on the best interests of our students, and that is why I made that motion earlier. And I don't think it's disrespectful to vote when we have a quorum and there's a board member not here, especially on something that another board member thinks is trivial. And that's all I have to say.
I selected, we will listen actively and openly to all ideas without interrupting or preparing responses. We had several presentations, and I thought we had great conversations about what was just presented. I actually also have a report. This past weekend, I went to my first CSBA Delegate Assembly meeting. So I just wanted to give a short report on what I learned from that meeting. It was in Sacramento this past weekend. There were 300 school board members from across the state, and it was kind of just a great overview just to meet and learn about what was going on across the state in terms of education. One of the big things that was discussed during a breakout session was something that Ms. Kessler brought up, was about the STRS and PERS issue. And there was about an hour breakout session just with school board, about 40 school board members. Each of them kind of discussed what was affecting their school districts in terms of long-term funding and how it would affect future retirements and contract negotiations. So that was kind of great to hear what other school districts were also facing. And then there were also some updates in terms of some of the education proposed policies being introduced in Sacramento. One of them that had a lot of discussion during our delegate assembly meeting was a proposal by State Senator Anthony Portantino down in Southern California to change the start times in California. So currently, right now, I think each school district sets their own time, but his bill is trying to make it a statewide requirement to start no earlier than 8:30 in the morning, because there's research that kind of finds that school start times earlier in the day has a impact in terms of students' kind of retention in the classroom. So the idea is that starting at 8:30 is a way to kind of accommodate some of that, as well as improve student performance. There was a lot of discussion back and forth in terms of whether it was too early or too late, because some urban and rural districts affects in terms of like farming, a lot of farming communities, a lot of student opportunities to do after-school sports and jobs after school. So there was a lot of discussion about that. But I thought that was one of the a big piece of proposed legislation that I thought might be good to bring back to our school district to like, just kind of inform everybody about it. That's it.
I was focused on, we will keep our focus on the best interests of our students. We're working on it.
I focus on the same one, and I think we did that on most of the things that we, especially talking about areas that we need to bring up to par that we've been talking about for a while. So hopefully we'll see that.
Yep.
Every child should learn. That's my motto. Yeah. Okay, so let's go down to persons wishing to address the board on closed session items. So I have Paul Hagan, lead negotiator for AFT.
Two of us are still here. Hi, Paul Hagan. I teach at Ben Franklin Intermediate School, and I'm the chief negotiator for AFT 3267. I'm commenting on that item in closed session. I know you're going in to discuss negotiations for both AFT and CSEA. I'd just like to comment that, of course, these are very, very important to all of us, important to me, important to all the teachers and employees in the district. And we've worked really, really hard, and I think we've made some real progress. So I hope going in that you will take that into consideration. It concerns me, I have to say that it concerns me, however, as someone who's been involved in negotiations with the district for a long, long time. I understand the issues are complicated, the issues take discussion, the issues take a clear mind. When we negotiate, we start, at 8:30 in the morning. It really concerns me when the board goes in at close to 10 o'clock to start discussing something that is so vitally important to the employees of the district. Approximately one-fifth of the time of this meeting was spent on two items that I personally would agree with Dr. Douglas were a little bit trivial in light of the other business that the board still has to take care of. Thank you.
Well, I have no other speaker cards at the moment, so guess we will recess this meeting for a few minutes. We'll go into closed session, and then we'll come back out and report any action taken. So, good night. It is
4:10.
9:40.
When I-